Okay, so good evening, everyone. I'm Molly Banka, and I'll be conducting today's daily debate. So before we begin, here's a quick rundown of how things will go. Each speaker will have a 70-second opening statement to present their stance. Following that, you will each have 60 seconds for rebuttals, where you can directly respond to the points made by your opponent. And after that, we'll move into a short round of follow-up questions or clarifications if needed. And finally, we'll wrap up with the closing statements. At the end, I'll share some feedback on how the debate went, what stood out, and what could be improved, and how we can continue to grow as speakers. Just a reminder, there's no winning or losing here. We are all here to learn, build confidence, and sharpen our thinking. So now let's get into it. Our motion for today is this House believes that the global youth mental health crisis constitutes a silent emergency and calls for the establishment of a UN-backed global youth mental health framework to ensure equitable inclusivity and culturally sensitive access to care. So let's keep things respectful, insightful, and engaging. And with that, let's begin with the four. Niyati and Atharva, whenever you want to start.
I guess I will go first then.
So who's going to go first?
Is it okay if I go first?
Works.
Yeah, you can.
Alright, so I'll be starting in the backward count of 3, 2, and 1. We're facing a silent crisis, the global youth mental health emergency. 1 in 7 adolescents struggle with mental health, and suicide is the fourth leading cause of death among youth. It is time to act. We call for a UN-backed global youth mental health framework to ensure equitable and culturally sensitive care. In many low-income countries, mental health professionals are scarce. A global framework would ensure that every young person can access care. For example, in India, mental health care is often mental health care is often ignored, and a global framework can support culturally appropriate solutions. All youth deserve access to care regardless of where they live. Additionally, cultural sensitivity is crucial. In Rwanda, combining traditional healing with modern therapy has made mental health care more accessible. Solutions must respect local values as we want to respect for cultural diversity. Lastly, we must empower youth to take the lead in mental health. Programs like Jack.org in Canada reduce stigma and encourage peers to seek help. Empowerment in youth must be part of the solution. In conclusion, the global youth mental health crisis is urgent, and a UN-backed framework will ensure equitable care and save lives. Thank you.
Good job. I really like how you spoke. Atharva,
Yeah, I'm starting.
so do you want
Okay,
me
I'll
to
be.
give a countdown or
Yeah, you can.
all right? So we'll begin now.
Okay. Good evening. My name is AJ, and today I'm going with the motion that speaks that the silent cries and the mental health crisis of youth is demands a United Nations framework that is going to be about global youth health, mental health. So
Atharva,
one in
sorry to
our
interrupt. We cannot hear you very clearly. Your voice is not clear.
country.
Your voice is not really audible to us
Yeah, it's
right now.
very.
Can you just give me 2 minutes? Can you just give me 2 minutes?
All right, no problem. We can have Jayant go first then. Is that fine?
Okay, so I'll be starting in the self count of 3, 2, and 1. Honorable Chair, we recognize that youth mental health is serious concern, but we strongly oppose this motion. First, this is not a silent emergency. Mental health is louder than ever, campaigned by global campaigns, celebrities, and NGOs. Over 80 countries have mental youth policies in place. This issue is recognized. What's lacking is implementation, not awareness. A UN backed global framework sounds idealistic but is impractical. The UN has already the Mental Health Action Plan 2013 to 2030 and Youth 2030 strategy. Why add bureaucracy instead of strengthening what exists? Third, mental health is deeply cultural. One global framework risks being tone deaf, but works in Canada may not fit Cambodia. Real progress lies in local, culturally rooted solutions, not in top down models. Instead of reinventing the wheel, let's empower grassroots program, boost national funding, and scale what's already working. For these reasons, we oppose the motion.
Okay, you still have time remaining. We can continue with Paki then.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, advocates of change, today I stand before you to address the matter that carries the weight of our future. The establishment of a UN backed global youth mental health framework, while seemingly noble, raises significant concern that cannot be overlooked. We must examine where this initiative truly serves the best interest of our youth, or is it merely a facade, a band aid on a gaping wound? Let us first consider the essence of mental health. It's not merely a checklist of service or a framework filled with lofty ideas. Equality, inclusion, and cultural sincerity are words we hear often in discussions about mental health. Yet, these concepts can become mere buzzwords where they're not translated into practice. We must ask ourselves, who defines what equitable access looks like? Who decides what is culturally sensitive? The voices of the very youth we aim to support often remain unheard in these conversations. We must also consider the bureaucratic nature of our framework. The UN, while a vital organization, is often bogged down in layers of red tape. The establishment of global framework may lead to lengthy discussions and delay in implementations. Our youth cannot afford to wait for solutions that may take years or even decades to materialize. When it comes to mental health, time is of the essence. Every moment lost could mean further deterioration of young person's mental well-being. So are we going to be trying to be so-called woke, or we actually care for our youth? That is the big question. Thank you.
Paki, you've extended your time. It's all right. So, Atharva, are we ready?
Am I now audible now?
Yeah, much better.
Okay. So I'll be starting with my self count of 3, 2,
I
1.
guess we still aren't able to hear you. Can you be closer to the mic?
Okay. So is it working now?
Works fine.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go. So good evening, guys. My name is AJ, and today I'm going with the motion that the silent cries of the teenagers facing global youth mental health programs, global youth mental health disorders needs to have a United Nations backed framework. According to the statistic, we can say that starting from across the India, classrooms of the India to the homes of Europe, we are saying that students are battling with their own traumas, depression, or even anxiety, and too often they are losing the fight itself. According to WHO, 1 in 7 adolescents are fighting with mental health disorders. And also, the fourth biggest cause of death in the teenagers from 14 to 29, it is suicide. And the most biggest and most important part about the suicide is it is caused due to mental health disorder. Then why should we need United States to make a framework for it? Because the global issues need global responses. Having a proper framework from the United Nations will ensure that there is cultural sensitivity, equality, and even resources that is available in across the country. United Nations will help the mental health issues to be resolved in every country. The youth we are having is the future of our own country. Then what kind of future are we making if we are not listening to their silent cries? It's not about it is not about control. It is all about coordination. And the things that we should do is not tomorrow. We should do it today because the crisis is going to destroy our youth. It's not going to change the present that we are living. It is going to change the future. Thank you.
All right, good arguments, good opening statements by both of y'all, both of the parts. So now, should we start with the rebuttals? Are you all ready?
We only have 7 minutes or so left.
Right, so we'll have one round of rebuttals. I'm really excited because y'all are going to have good questions for each other. So we can have like an open rebuttal. Y'all can have your mics off and we'll just have like an open chat.
You can send another meeting link if you are in the WhatsApp group.
All right, I'll send one more meeting link in the Discord chat. Is that
Okay.
good? So what we can do is we can continue with the rebuttals right now, and then as soon as the meeting ends, or else I'll just send it right now. We can leave this.
Yeah.
All
I'll
right.
be sharing it with you, Paki.
You all can join the new meeting link. All right.
So like right now we should join the new meeting. Or,
Yeah,
like after
I'm
the
sending the meeting link
okay.
in the Discord chat.
Send it.
Begin. Recording in progress. We'll begin with the rebuttals now. You all can start. We'll start with the for first and then the against.
What's the time limit for the rebuttal?
60 seconds. 60 seconds per person.
Can I do the
So
first
I'll go
rebuttal,
first.
Niyati?
Yeah. If you want to go first, it's fine.
Wait.
Can I go?
Firstly, the opposition goes first in the rebuttal statements.
Not compulsory.
It's not compulsory.
It's compulsory.
I don't know, yaar.
All right, so
It's
the
fine.
opposition can go
You
first.
Yeah.
The opposition can go first, and we can
Thank
start
you,
with you.
Chair.
Is it an open rebuttal? Like, are we supposed to question them? Like
We
you
planned
said
for an
before?
open rebuttal before, but we'll just go with the format, and we can begin with Jaya.
Thank you,
Will
Chair.
we have questions in the rebuttals?
Shut up.
We'll have questions later after the rebuttals.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to respond to the proposition's well-meaning but flawed argument. They claim that this crisis is silent, but that's simply not true. We have seen mental health campaigns from the WHO, UNICEF, and national governments explode in visibility. This is a recognized, not ignored issue. They argue a UN framework with standardized care, but standardization ignores culture. Mental health is not one size fit for all. A framework designed in Geneva won't meet the needs of tribal youth in India or refugees seen in Syria. And most importantly, we don't need another framework. We need action. The UN already has mental health strategies from 2013 to 2030 on record. What we lack is political will and grassroots support, not more global paperwork. Don't rely on a delay on real progress with another declaration. Let's empower local systems that truly understand their youth. Thank you.
All right, so we can have the next person going.
So, shall I start?
Yeah.
So my question and answer to my fellow debaters would be that don't you think that your idea of having an inclusive mental health program for a youth is very much flawed? Because who is going to decide what is inclusivity? The white men sitting in the parliament? Or the officials who are way above all the discrimination and the lack of inclusivity that is now faced by youth? Right now, the new words inclusivity, cultural sensitivity, cultural appropriations are being used as trends. And you have to understand that where such a big organization like UN wants to do something, they have to pass many obstacles and blockades so that they could implement something. And we have seen that in real time. Take an example of Sri Lanka, how they, when they tried to interfere in the civil war, they failed utterly because of the lack of understanding about the different people that lived in Sri Lanka. So this would happen again, and this would happen with the future. It is not a talk about the past, as my fellow debater said, it is about our future, and we should not follow these new trends. And instead, we should work on something that is very healthy and productive and efficient use of our resources. Thank you.
Amazing arguments by both of you all. Now we'll have the first. Who's going first? Niyati or Atharva?
I'm okay with both.
You all
I
can
guess they
decide
don't
and
have
go.
any arguments.
I too, but I'm waiting.
Both of y'all are in the same team. Who would like to go first?
Atharv, you can go first this time.
Okay. So, as my fellow the opposition debaters are saying that the United Nations framework does not have any cultural sensitivity, or it is not applicable to the grassroots level. So the thing is that United Nations framework is not one size fits all. It includes the cultural sensitivity, it includes the local level and grassroots levels, and the perspective is also seen by that level too. So just like that, when we can see that some tree plantation act or the any environmental conservation act done by United Nations don't tell local level people to how to plant trees. They are just doing the initiative, and this is not about control. It's about empowering them. So it is about having an initiative rather than just controlling all the things. So having a big organization like United Nations to have this kind of initiative will eventually help the local and state level organizations to work on it. That doesn't mean that United Nations is going to do all the work itself. Thank you.
Good job. Now we can have Niyati.
Alright, so I'll start in 3, 2, and 1. Yes, youth mental health is increasingly recognized, but recognition is not the same as action. Many countries have acknowledged the problem, yet they fail to invest in real solutions, like my opposition said. But a UN-backed framework turns awareness into implementation by providing structured support and accountability. And also, as my opposition said, that the voice of youth is often ignored in decisions about their mental health. A global framework ensures that young people have active participation instead of passive like recipients in shaping the support they need. And moving on to my final argument, my opposition also mentioned that mental health is cultural specific, and we agree that mental health is deeply cultural, and that is why the motion explicitly calls for a cultural sensitive framework. This isn't about enforcing Western therapy models, it's about supporting local solutions with global resources. And in my main speech, I mentioned the example of Rwanda, where traditional healing practices are blended with modern care, and a global framework can support such initiatives instead of erasing them. Thank you.
Good job again, both of the teams. Now we'll have the open.
I would like to add something to what she said. So
Correct.
UN is doing that thing right now. It is having mental health action plans. So why do we need more action plans or more frameworks? And it is until 2030 ends. So 5 years are still left for that action plan to be implemented. So why need we need more paperwork or something like those?
All right. So I do agree that the UN already has frameworks and plans, but the issue is that the plans are not being implemented. So what we as the proposition want, we want that the UN gets a better framework with active participations from the adolescents who actually require help and implemented as soon as possible.
I just would
I
just
would like
one
to
statement.
add,
Just
yeah,
a second, please. Like, what is the guarantee that this new plan would, work practically? As you said, like before implementations, they did not work. So, what is the guarantee this new one will work, and what is so different about it?
So, because this time, as we've said earlier, the UN should take feedback from the adolescents who need help. And it is true that the UN has not been perfect, but inaction is not the reason to abandon global responsibility. The lack of implementation shows that we need stronger and more focused frameworks, not less involvement. And a dedicated youth mental health plan would prioritize action, funding, and accountability rather than letting the issue stay buried in broad health agendas.
And I wanted to add on something to what you said. Okay, so as the time is changing itself, the pressure and the anxiety and the reason why people are facing those mental disorders is changing. So the reason is changing, then the recovery or any kind of things that we can do to change it should change also.
Does anyone want to add anything on it?
yeah, I want to ask.
Go ahead.
Again, the same question comes upon how does creating another UN framework solve what existing strategies like the WHO Mental Health Action Plan and Youth 2030 have failed to achieve?
As I've mentioned earlier, the UN hasn't been perfect, but inaction is not a reason to abandon their programs. And if we make a new and better framework and prioritize action and like uh, gain better funding rather than letting the issue stay buried. And also, yeah, please. Moving on to the point that you said about the WHO also like the WHO could join hands with the UN to actually prioritize the issue, and also the UN. I feel like the UN has more involvement as compared to the WHO.
Okay. So now, how do you plan to ensure that this UN-backed framework is enforceable when many countries already have undef undifferent or ignore existing UN recommendations? Like my English is bad. I would like to repeat the question. My question is, how do you plan to ensure that this UN-backed framework is enforceable when many countries already underfund or ignore existing UN recommendations?
Okay, so that actually depends upon the country and how they give importance to the programs by the UN. So if a country is not actually focusing or prioritizing recommendations by the UN could start by giving the country warnings or providing better funding to underdeveloped countries if they do not have enough funding. Does that make sense?
No, that does not make sense at all because, as you said, UN can give warnings or do some things. UN is totally a body that is underlying US or the European Union, as we all know. Because even after giving the warnings to Russia, Palestine, or China, they are doing nothing. They are still fighting on wars. They are doing what they want to do. Then how would you say that after giving UN the power, if they make something like this, would implement it on the ground level? And
So
I want to
even
add some
yeah.
more things. According to a research, more than 80% of the countries in worldwide are having or running their own mental health programs. So why would UN require another framework or paperwork which would in fact not decrease their work but increase their stress levels of UN people who are working there or the country's government who are under UN?
All
as
right,
they
so
are
I'll
having their
answer
own
your question part.
initiative. And I
I
am
got your
also
question.
running an initiative on mental health. So how you can say it is a silent issue if students who are age 15 are also running their mental health initiatives to make it more global? So how can you say that it is a silent issue that needs emergency response?
Okay, so I feel like you've asked different questions. I'll start by responding with how it would work if countries do not take like UN recommendations. So first of all, if countries do not actually fully follow UN recommendations, a global framework will still matter as it still sets some standards, universal standards, and helps mobilize funding and empowers NGOs, youth groups, and the civil society to push change locally. We've seen this work before. For example, the UNICEF and WHO guidelines have shaped national health policies even in countries that did not formally adopt the UN resolution. Your second question was that how would it work if countries are already running their own mental health programs? So, first of all, in many countries, national governments lack resources or political will to prioritize youth mental health programs. A UN framework does not need to override national control. It supports, funds, and guides local efforts. For example, similar frameworks in education and public health have worked by empowering other systems, not by replacing local systems. Collaboration can help strengthen the programs instead of weakening sovereignty.
I actually had a question to both of you. Aside from questioning the efficiency of UN, when countries allow the so-called red pill content on their social media, and when they run such programs, don't you think it's contradictory? Because the red pill content on social media is hugely responsible for the low esteem, bad mental health, depression, anxiety of youth in our country. Please pardon my background noises. I'm very sorry. So my question to you is that while having such bad red pill content, which is misogynistic and very bad for youth, and then you're trying to enforce these programs, so they won't be efficient. So that's the question.
And I would also like to add up something, another question on Paki's question. As I said, UN is mostly run by USA and European Union, and there is no doubt in that. You can see the statistics, you can see everything, every data uploaded on the internet. So my question is, isn't there a risk that a universal framework will also impose Western psychiatric models on countries with different cultural understandings of mental health and different real based scenarios of mental health, like African Union countries or Southeast Asian countries?
Okay, before your answer to this question, this will be the last question, and maybe after that we can have the other team answer question here, and we'll like to keep the last 5 minutes for feedback. All right? You all can continue. Atharva and Niyati, you can give the answer.
Could you repeat your question, please?
So, okay, I would be So, okay, I would be summarizing my and Paki's question. Paki said that on many social media platforms in many countries, there are red pill content or the content that should be not seen under the age of certain age limit. And if you are running mental health programs in those countries in which country government are supporting those contents, so won't it be contradictory if we see an example of Japan or South Korea with low fertility rates? That's why they are running those programs. And side by side, if they are running mental health initiatives or something like those, it would be totally contradictory to their own government. And my question was, as UN and other international bodies are hugely influenced by US and European Union, so won't there be a risk of a universal framework that will impose Western psychiatric models on countries with different understanding or cultural backgrounds of mental wellness, like African countries or Southeast Asian countries?
All right, so first of all, when we talk about red pill programs, as you mentioned, they have a certain age limit, and governments should start enforcing that age limit like better. And not all young people turn to the red pill ideology with bad intent. Many are looking for like guidance or purpose. The problem is that red pill programs exploit that need by offering harmful and overly simplified answer instead of like healthy answers. So while the government of a certain country promotes mental health programs, they should also enforce the age limit to red pill content better, as well as running programs which would help the youth instead of them turning to something that is not meant for their age group.
And also, the United Nations initiative will also consist of laws that will prevent the underage people to get into red pill content. That is also something that will consist the United Nations initiative.
Oh, and about your question, you said that it would implement Western psychiatric ideologies. The motion clearly says that the UN wants to implement culturally sensitive programs, and so that if like UN actually builds a framework, they could support local programs instead.
There is no problem of this house that is supporting UN building and culturally more impactful mental health initiative. But what we see in real life or the real life scenarios that are really existing in today's world, there are Western influence so much on the UN that even the sanctions that USA is putting right now on countries who are fighting a war is literally influencing UN to put another more round of sanctions instead of protect those people who are suffering in those countries. So, Western influence is very, very huge in terms of today's real world scenario. So it doesn't matter what this house says, but the real life scenario is really what matters. I agree that house is saying that house supports there should be a UN mental health program that is culturally available for everybody, but there isn't actually in real world thing that is going to happen.
Okay, guys, I feel this was an amazing debate. So, do you have any other clarifications to make, or should we start with the feedbacks?
I think like the four should ask us questions because we haven't answered.
Yeah, and I also want to add up something. As the opposition team gave so many examples, gave so many facts related to UN, related to real world, so we would be also expecting the proposition to back their words with some examples or some stories on real world basis. I guess they don't have any word for us.
No, wait, I have a question. Just let me frame it properly. It's like a very long paragraph if I start speaking it out.
Do you need a minute? All right.
You could copy that and send it in the chat box.
I've written it on a notebook. All right. So basically, if it isn't the UN who starts like this kind of programs, then who would do it? For example, if it's the UN with its global reach and resources, isn't it like the right entity to support youth mental health? Like, who else would have the ability to provide global coordination, funding, and collaboration with nations?
Well,
So,
I for
Bharti,
one matter,
okay,
like if
you could
yeah.
go first.
Well, I for one matter think that UN is very late to the game. Before UN, there has been numerous organizations, whether they are on a global level, national level, or even in a small level, like a school level, that have started this initiative for mental health awareness first, and then they have started like support groups to help the youth figure out their problems. So I think UN is very late to the game, and it is coming only now because it is in trend and it is expected of them to come. It is not by something that they have very noble like a notion towards this, but it is because it's their obligation. They are expected.
And I would also like to add up some things to Paki's answer. As she said, the UN is actually late in the game. And if we talk about who is going to do it, if UN is not going to do it, it's actually happening in more than 80 countries. If we take example of India, there are not thousands, there are 100 of thousands of initiatives running across India, that is actually practical basis running across India, not just on paperwork or on internet. They're actually helping people out. They're actually conducting webinars. They're actually conducting people one-on-one sessions with them. And not just in India, in each and every developed countries and those countries which are even underdeveloped. If I'm allowed to take name of countries, there are countries in Africa, for the example of Congo, for example Zimbabwe, which is actually struggling for their economy but still running those mental health initiative programs. So how can you say that UN's paperwork is going to help something? Actually, the country, the groundwork is going to help something in actually mitigating this problem. Not the UN paperwork or the UN's initiatives are going to help. Because if they would have helped, they are having this mental health notion from 2013 to 2030. The name is WHO Mental Health Action Plan from 2013 to 2030. And if it would have helped something, it would have done many serious things till now, and it isn't doing. So that's when the grassroots level comes in. The actually, for example, traditional healing in Uganda or spiritual based counseling in India. And now comes youth-led programs and amplifying grassroots levels, not actually superficially on the top of the world things. So we should look at the grass level. We should look at the point-to-point level, not just do paperwork on international organizations which are actually influenced by Western countries like America, European Union, etc.
All
Right.
right. So first of all,
I think we
like
should stop here because I need to give you all the feedback as well. This was like a very tremendous debate, and I'd really like to
can I just
continue it.
rebut him and then you can like
We just have 5 minutes.
all right, sorry.
I'm so sorry, but we'll definitely continue it someday. So, like from my perspective, today's debate was very insightful and engaging, and I like appreciate the effort each speaker has put in to crafting their arguments, and there was like clear passion, confidence, and a very strong grasp of the motion. And many of you brought in very relevant examples, statistics, and culturally sensitive perspectives, which made this discussion more nuanced. And I was like especially impressed by the quality of rebuttals and the follow-up questions. They were they reflected like how strongly and how critical thinking and active listening worked with y'all. And while some of the arguments did drift slightly or become repetitive, the overall structure and flow was solid. And moving forward, I encourage all of you to focus on tightening your structure and refining clarity. And this space is for growth, and you all showed like great potential today. And well done, guys, because I'm really impressed. I'm actually, very happy with all the discussion today. You all would like to add anything
So
because
when it would be coming out on YouTube?
I am not sure.
Like the past debates haven't even came out on